Shadow Hearts Covenant is the best JRPG I've ever played. How's that for a strong intro? It's a direct upgrade to Shadow Hearts 1 in almost every single way. And I'm embarrassed to say, but I thought I wasn't going to like it as much as the first one. Boy, do I have egg on my face. It began development in autumn of 2002 by Saknoth, who was rebranded by their parent company as Nautilus partway through. It was released just shy of 3 years after Shadow Hearts. They received quite a bit of feedback from fans and they listened. For context, here's a quick refresher on Shadow Heart 1's systems. Combat is turn-based, and most actions in combat involve a QuickTime event known as the Judgment Ring. The ring appears with several hit areas, and a cursor spins around at once. Hit X at the right time to do the thing you want to do. There are also small strike areas that increase the effect of the action you're taking. You could equip various equipment and trinkets that could increase your stats or slightly modify the ring, but that was all you had in terms of customization. It was a simple system, not necessarily bad, but simple. What did they add to improve combat in Covenant? Well, a lot actually. It's incredibly customizable, and strictly only as complicated as you choose to make it. Let's start with what's familiar, the Judgment Ring. Almost every aspect of it can be changed. You can add extra hit areas, change the type of ring, cause status effects, and even turn on auto ring. There are 4 types of ring: normal, practice, technical, and gamble. Normal is normal. Practice removes the strike areas, lowering your damage ceiling, but it allows you to miss without any penalties. Technical, now this is the Chad's ring for real cool dudes. It makes the hit areas much smaller, but it greatly improves the bonus you get from strikes. A further trade-off is that if you miss anywhere on the technical ring, the whole attack is lost. Normally, if you miss on the 3rd hit, you would still get the first 2, but not on this ring. It's all or nothing. The gamble ring is locked to only 1 hit area, swings erratically, and counts as hitting every area on a normal ring. Each character has their own ring with specific number of hit areas. Items can be equipped to them to increase the number of hits by up to 2, or increase the size of the hit or strike areas. There are also effect items that can be equipped to characters, causing their regular attacks to have a chance to apply some negative effect, like poison. And on top of all that, there's the auto ring option. It makes the ring automatically succeed. Like the practice ring, you can't strike, but if you can't stand the ring or otherwise just not want to engage with it, you at least have that option. I didn't have any interest in circumventing the main mechanic of the game, but there was one instance where I did use the auto ring. Similarly to Shadow Hearts 1, I was able to comfortably beat the game with little to no grinding. That's pretty good, considering the Judgment Ring means that you have to pay attention for every battle, even against very weak enemies. I was doing an optional piece of content and felt like a couple more levels would make things a bit easier. Using the auto ring meant that I could just turn up the game speed and mash X in every encounter. On top of all the ring customization, each character has unique mechanics and special skills that are improved in their own ways, but I'll go over them as they appear in the story. Another great improvement is the turn order. Before, turn order was fixed, everyone getting 1 turn before going down the list again. Now it's much more dynamic. Quicker characters get their turns more often, and speed can be buffed or debuffed. Some actions are quicker, causing your next turn to be delayed less than it would if you were to attack. There are many systems, but I'll get started on the story and trickle them to you as they appear. I think a quick refresher on the first game's story is in order. I also have a video on that one if you want the full context. The warlock Albert Simon thinks the world is whack, so he summons God, who just happens to be an alien, to destroy everything, essentially resetting the world. Local bonehead Yuri, along with love interest Alice and a colorful band of bozos, defeat both Simon and God and save the world. There are 2 endings, one where Alice sacrifices herself to save Yuri, and one where they both survive. Covenant continues from the former. It starts 6 months after the events of the previous game in the French village of Domremy. The First World War has begun, and a group of German soldiers, led by Karen, move into the town's church, and are absolutely demolished by a massive demon. It's not even close either, their bullets just bounce off of it. It doesn't hurt Karen though, and it actually protects her from an errant grenade. Simp demon. As it leaves, Karen sees it turn into a man. Back at headquarters, Karen explains what happened to the general. Domremy isn't at all important strategically, but having a small village with only 1 combatant drive off their soldiers looks bad, so they send her back there with Cardinal Nicholas Conrad. They call him Nicholas in this cutscene, but for the rest of the game, everyone calls him Nikolai. It even shows up that way in the menus, so that's what I'm gonna call him. Meanwhile, in Wales, a small group kidnaps this old man. The game doesn't reveal it yet, but he's Roger Bacon, a 700-year-old warlock who was an important ally in the past 2 games. Before they return to Domremy, Nikolai brings Karen to Apoina Tower to help him get some kind of exorcism tool. This serves as a tutorial area. Many of the battles in here offer the choice to be walked through the battle systems, like the Judgment Ring and whatnot. The tower was a prison for criminals and heretics, and is full of their mad spirits. making it a safe place to keep the item he needs. Karen comments that, unlike here, she didn't feel any malice from the demon in Dahomey. Strangely enough, she calls it beautiful.
What an odd thing to say.
The artifact we're looking for, this weird stick, is guarded by Gargoyle, the first boss. In terms of difficulty, the bosses in Covenant are generally a step up from Shadow Hearts. There are a lot more close calls and situations where I had to stop and put in at least a little thought into my actions. Karen has only 4 sanity points at this level, which is actually an insanely low amount. Like in the last game, a character's sanity goes down by 1 every turn they take, and if it hits 0, you lose control of them as they go berserk. The Gargoyle doesn't hit very hard, but our sanity maximum is absolutely pitiful for both characters. I had to use SP restoring items on both of them. Off the top of my head, I don't remember losing to any non-optional bosses, so even though it's slightly more brain requiring, Covenant doesn't really push the envelope in terms of difficulty. Speaking of optional content, Covenant has a lot more. Each of the 8 party members has their own side quest, plus a couple more for good measure. Most of them are started by returning to an old area with certain characters in your party, and considering I was guideless and didn't backtrack much, I didn't stumble across many of them. And for the record, when I play a game with the intention of making a video on it, I try to go in as blind as possible. The only things I'll look up are if there are multiple endings and how to get them. If a game is so cryptic that a guide is almost required, I think that's an important thing to consider quality-wise. That being said, Covenant wasn't a short game. I clocked in about 40 hours doing mostly just the main story. It was engaging and interesting enough that I didn't even want to take any detours for side quests. Anyway, we've got the magic stick that's good for exorcisms, so we head back to Domremy. Besides us and the other German soldiers, there aren't any other people around. They've set up some traps that summon toys to attack us? That's kind of a tonal whiplash. We make it to the church and Nikolai tells the soldiers to wait outside. Once we're in, the sound of fighting starts, and it definitely doesn't sound like our guys are winning. The demon bursts into the church and turns back into a man, and unsurprisingly, it's Yuri. He looks a lot different though. They yassified the poor guy. Nikolai knew Yuri was here and called him Godslayer. Turns out Nikolai's bad, evil. His goons killed the soldiers outside to prevent any witnesses, and they've got someone Yuri cares about, some kid named Jean. Nikolai attacks Yuri, but it's no contest. He easily sidesteps his attacks. Outmatched, he calls in his goons. The big one, Lenny, has Jean. Nikolai was hunting down Albert Simon, but Yuri and the gang got to him first. He thinks Yuri is going to be a problem for their plans, so he wants to take him down now. He's part of a group called Sapientes Gladio, or Sages of the Sword. That holy stick from earlier is actually the holy mistletoe, and supposedly it can defeat Yuri. Karen, who's been kind of just standing around this whole time, turns on Nikolai. There's a scuffle, Yuri gets stabbed with the mistletoe, and well...
What the hell is this?
The next scene is a flashback to the night after the first attack in Domremy. It introduces Jean's dog, Blanca, and future party member Geppetto the puppeteer. Pinocchio, however, is nowhere to be seen. Instead, he's got Cornelia, a puppet based on his daughter who died young. He's also Alice's uncle on her mother's side, which is probably how he knows Yuri. The flashback turns into a nightmare, where he trips over a seemingly dead Blanca, and sees his demon form dropping a lifeless Jean to the ground. Yuri wakes up in a cave with Geppetto, Blanca, and Karen. That mistletoe severely weakened him. That's probably a good thing, because if he was still level 50 from the last game, it would just be a little bit too easy. This next cutscene is a little confusing, because Geppetto says the soldiers took the villagers away. But then he tells Karen that if they find her, they'll kill her too. I mean, that makes sense, because the Gladios goons did kill the other German soldiers. But wait, if the soldiers were killed, who took the villagers away? I suppose he could have been referring to the Gladios guys, but a few cutscenes from now, we talk to Jean's ghost, and she's like, yeah, I died by the way. Yuri doesn't seem at all surprised by this, and in fact it feels like the game thinks I should already know that. So, it seems that when Geppetto said the soldiers took the villagers away, what he actually meant to say was Sapientes Gladio killed the villagers. I don't know.
What's going on here?
Before we leave, the crest system is unlocked. Characters have 8 crest slots and a DCP meter. Each crest has some spells attached to it. Equipping the crest allows someone to cast those spells. Stronger crests have a higher DCP requirement. Yuri can't use crest because he's got rocks for brains, it can't remember spells. I didn't have anywhere else in the script to put this, but Yuri's intelligence stat is lower than even the dog's. We're attacked by monsters in the forest, apparently because whatever curse that mistletoe put on Yuri made him a monster magnet. He also can't use any of his fusions right now. After traveling through the forest for a while, Yuri passes out and wakes up in the graveyard. It looks a bit different from the last game, but it's more or less the same place. There's a tree that wasn't there before, and there's a weird copy of Yuri growing out of it. The delivery of his lines in this cutscene is so weird.
Guess I'd better have a look around in here. Inside my soul.
At least while we're here, we start the process of unlocking Yuri's fusions again. Defeating enemies gives Yuri Soul Charge, which can be used at the altars in the graveyard. Each element has its own altar that can be used to unlock that element's fusions. You can also use Soul Charge on Yuri's personal screen in the menu to upgrade the fusions, unlocking better spells and stats for that element. If that sounds a little confusing, hold on to that for now, I will come back to it. Back in the real world, they set up camp and are waiting for Yuri to wake up, and Geppetto is telling Karen a little bit about Alice. Eventually, the malice in Yuri's body forms into a giant monster. This gross human-like spider with fingers for limbs. It's an interesting design, a little gross though. Karen hasn't actually joined the party yet, so this fight is with just Yuri, Blanca, and Geppetto, and it was surprisingly difficult. It hit really hard, almost one-shotting Geppetto on his first attack, and also poisoned us. Yuri's fusions work a bit differently in combat now too. Instead of having high sanity cost to fuse with them, the rate that his SP falls is increased while fused. His Carol fusion drained 3 per turn, which wasn't sustainable. It didn't help that I was still getting back into the rhythm with the Judgment Ring either. The boss takes out Blanca and Shitty G, and Yuri goes berserk. It's pure luck that he still decided to attack the boss, and that it was enough to finish the fight. I absolutely should have lost that fight. After that, Yuri says that the mistletoe is making the spirits in his body unruly, and that's where the boss came from. This literally never comes up again for the rest of the game. Now it's time for the aforementioned scene with Jean's ghost. She's definitely dead, but she's hanging around in Yuri's graveyard for some reason. I didn't really explain it earlier, but the graveyard is a reflection of Yuri's soul. It's this place he can go to at save points, and it houses his emotions and memories and whatever. It played a big part in the last game. There was a lot of angst to be had here. Back then, there were these 4 mask assholes. Mask holes, you could say. Stupid. Yuri's soul got devoured, don't ask, and Alice came to the graveyard and traded her soul for his, which is eventually what caused her death in the bad ending. Back to the present, Jean is sticking around in the graveyard looking for something before she passes on. Before she leaves, she asks Yuri if he's scared to live his life alone. Weird thing for a 9-year-old to ask. Geppetto has an apartment in Paris, rich fuck, and he managed to dig up some information on the mistletoe. It was allegedly a tool for guiding lost souls, but what happens when it's used on a soul that isn't dead? They also didn't find out how to fix whatever's happening to Yuri. In walks Karen, who's changed into a much more revealing outfit. Yuri and Geppetto are literally on the floor drooling at her, and if you've played the game before, you probably realize how weird that is. Geppetto doesn't have any leads, but Yuri has an idea, and it's to go ask Roger Bacon. If anyone has a solution, it's probably him. Yuri also calls him a weird old creature. Okay, rude. I mean, he did help you kill a god 6 months ago. Finding a boat to cross the English Channel in the middle of the war won't be easy though, but their best bet is probably Le Havre. Karen has a bone to pick with Nikolai for killing her men, and even if she just went home, they would probably just hunt her down, so she comes with. She officially joins the party here, and as she does, some Sapientes Gladio soldiers bust through the window. Now that we have 4 party members, we can pull off full combos. I don't do that this fight, but I'm gonna explain it anyway. Characters standing right next to each other can combo. When one person in a combo attacks, the next person gets their turn immediately, no matter where they are in the turn order. If all 4 members are standing next to each other, this can be daisy-chained, allowing everyone to go in a row. You can use someone's action on their turn to move close to another party member and set up a combo. Every hit in the combo increases the damage of later hits. So ideally, you'll attack with characters and spells with a lot of hits earlier on in the combo, and have the big dick slam moves at the end, where they'll greatly benefit from the combo bonus. The last person in the combo also has the option to use Combo Magic, which is a high damage, huge AoE spell. What's interesting about Covenant is that attacks have hitboxes, and if you're pulling some shenanigans, attacks might not hit. Hitting an enemy will move them around, and you can choose between 4 attack types to affect how they move. They're standard, hard hit, high angle, and knockdown. For example, if you hit an enemy with the high angle attack, it'll launch them in the air. Next turn in the combo, if you have Yuri try to punch them, they might be too high and the attack will miss, breaking the combo. Enemies can also combo, and subsequently miss. So if you see them move close together, you can hopefully use a hard hit to knock them out of combo distance. Unfortunately, most of the time, enemies will only set up combos if they could start the combo before I got a turn to interrupt it. I'm not mad about that, by the way. I prefer when the enemies in the game have a brain. Karen's unique mechanic is her sword arts. They're special moves that she can learn more of by finding scores from a specific opera. A lot of them are given to you for just talking to random NPCs in the street. Before we leave, Yuri finds 2 Mr. Stud cards. These are erotic trading cards featuring buff, almost naked men. What? I'm getting erotic book flashbacks from Shadow Hearts. These have a slightly more obvious use though. After moving through the subway tunnels to stay inconspicuous, we meet these 2 guys, Pierre and Gerard. Saknoth must have gotten a lot of fan letters saying they liked Maywan, because they really doubled down on the effeminate gay man stereotype. There's 2 of them now. And Gerard doesn't waste any time to start hitting on Yuri. Gerard runs the item shop and Pierre makes clothes for Cornelia in exchange for Mr. Stud cards. They show up in most areas and even a few dungeons, so get used to them. Each dress has an associated element, and having the dress made unlocks that elemental spell for Geppetto. Equipping that dress gives a boost for that specific element. Also, this area introduces the dog fights, the mechanic for Blanca's abilities. This dude, I don't even remember his name, probably like Michael Vick or something, lets Blanca fight his dog in a 1v1. There are more dogs throughout the game's dungeons, and every time Blanca defeats one, it upgrades or unlocks a new special ability for him. You even get a special punch card so you can get a special reward for every 3 dogs you beat. What the fuck? Back in the plot department, we still need to get out of Dodge. Not Dodge, it's Paris. So this guy tells us how to get to lay off through the unused tunnels. Lenny and his goons aren't far behind us though. This dungeon is kind of a stinker. It's just a bunch of subway tunnels that all look the same. Lenny catches up with us on a minecart, and it seems like they're setting up for a fight on rails, which would be a cool set piece, but after some shit talking, the tracks diverge and we get separated. Alright, good talk Lenny, see you later. We do still get a boss fight though. It's just against, what? This is Veronica, another Sapiente's Gladio leader. She's a dominatrix, and surprisingly, no one here is really into that, so she just summons 2 monsters to kill us instead. The bosses, Castor and Pollux, are named after the twin gods from Greek and Roman mythology. I didn't think Veronica was so well read. The fight itself went fine. They did kill Geppetto and Blanca though. Speaking of which, I don't know how the game decides which party members get targeted by enemies, but there seems to be a huge bias towards the weaker characters. I didn't keep track or anything, so this could just be confirmation bias, but later in the game when my party consisted of 2 muscle boys, a little girl and a dog, they almost always killed the little girl first. It's not a bad thing. If they picked targets completely at random, the game would probably be a lot easier. It's just funny seeing the enemies run past a demon so they land a running haymaker on the old man carrying a puppet. Some secret society Sapientes Gladio is. So far the members we've met have been the only guy on the planet dumber than Yuri, a pervert, and John Whitemage. Whoever's in charge must be quite the character. You'll never guess who that is, by the way, but I'll give you a hint. He's based on a real person from this time period. And no, not him. It's a little too early for that. This is World War I. In Le Havre, the town has been harassed by an odd bandit lately, and the mayor has set up a vigilante group to try and stop him. What's interesting is that most of the townsfolk aren't really too concerned about the bandit. They're more worried about this vigilante group, which is more of a group of hooligans than anything. Also, it's weird they're called vigilantes when they're hired by the mayor. Wouldn't that make them official and not vigilantes? Even here, the sailors don't want to depart because of the threat of German U-boats in the water, but they'll go if we can pay enough. We aren't exactly swimming in cash, but luckily the mayor's hiring more people to catch the bandit. Holy shit, look at these guys. They're obviously evil. They're like textbook goons. Despite them being evil, we agree to help, because if we catch that bandit, the mayor will give us enough money to get a ship to England. That night, we found him alright, and he's a character.
Who's that?
When the forces of darkness descend, in the name of justice, this fist! In the name of truth, these muscles. In the name of honor, this blood. Ha ha! Champion of truth and justice, Grand Papillon, ready to fight all evildoers. If you can face the unfettered fury of my rippling muscles, then come on!
What? Huh?
New best friend alert. After beating the absolute tar out of him, he turns into a golden bat and flees. No, not that golden bat. Wait, I made this joke in the last video. I should probably explain it this time. Golden Bat is considered by some to be the oldest modern superhero. He debuted in 1930 and has a skull for a face, which is kick-ass. I couldn't find anything saying whether or not this guy is a direct reference to Golden Bat, but considering he changes into one and also has a superhero theme, it's at the very least an amazing coincidence. The vigilante leader brings us to the other side of town and shows us Grand Papillon without his mask, playing with some children at the cafe. Before we can ask any questions, he gives us half the payment and runs off. Okay, so what's going on with this guy? Well, it turns out that the store supposedly had great treasure buried underneath it. The mayor and his goons are harassing the owner so they can dig up the treasure. The big man, Joachim, protects the store as his superhero alter ego, Grand Papillon. Since we're, good people, we head back to the mayor and give back the half payment he gave us. He's pissed off and orders the vigilante group to kill us, which makes no sense because the whole crux of the situation is that he wants us to help because we're the only ones strong enough to beat Joachim. Why does he think his goons can beat us? After giving them stern talk about a career change, the mayor runs off and kidnaps those two kids from earlier. They'll give them back in exchange for the deed to the store. Joachim joins the party, and it's off to the wine cellar hideout. He's not even wearing his Grand Papillon mask, and is significantly weaker than when we fought him. Yuri asks what's up with that, and he just says that a hero with no weaknesses is boring. This guy's great. He doesn't tell Yuri, but he's a vampire. In fact, he's the same one from the last game that we fought to get Keith's ultimate weapon. His gimmick is that he has 4 forms that he constantly cycles through every few battles. On his Joachim's page, there are 2 sign functions. Each battle moves these lines left towards the center point. When the gold line is at the center, he takes his golden bat form, which has less health, no abilities, but double attack power. The rainbow line marks his invisible form, where he's much less likely to be targeted, and his evasion is much higher. When both lines are at the center, which only happens every 60 battles or so, he enters his Grand Papillon form, greatly increasing all of his stats. He can't do it right now though, because the little girl Yuma, who was kidnapped, has his mask. Also, his run cycle makes him look like he just pooped his pants. At the end of the dungeon, the mayor and the vigilante group have been defeated already by Veronica.
Big brother!
What is he doing?
What's going on?
Champion of truth and justice, Grand Papillon!
I loved Keith Valentine in the last game, and I thought they couldn't top him, but Joachim's such a treasure. There's a quick duel between him and Veronica, and once that's done, she summons the real boss fight of the dungeon, this big-ass frog. This fight almost went really bad. I thought it would be easy, so I didn't kill the weaker minions, but then they buffed the boss, and it almost killed everyone. Back in town, the mayor and his goons agree to never be evil again and arrange a ship to England for us. Joachim decides to come with us, and the old shop owner reveals that she actually already found the treasure under the shop. It's King Solomon's Key, an old book to put crests in. Each crest belongs to a family, and each family has a section in the book. Fill out a section by putting the crests in the right spots, and each of them will upgrade, getting new spells added to their list. We head out, but nasty weather makes us take a pit stop in Southampton. Some hooligans harassing somebody when this fellow comes in and diffuses the situation. This absolute Chad is from the last game, and I was so happy to see him. In fact, let me play you my live reaction.
I thought it might be you. It's been
Kato?
a long time.
I recognize that chin.
It's you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Been a year. No. Longer.
Quick refresher, Kato, along with Lieutenant Colonel Kawashima, were Japanese soldiers from Shadow Hearts. Originally they were set up as minor antagonists, posing as allies to get close to us. But when their true nature was discovered, they opted to still help us defeat Deihwai, the enemy of that chapter. Kato was in love with Kawashima, but due to internal Japanese politics, she was assassinated by soldiers from mainland Japan. He's a diplomat now, on his way to London. He has an odd reaction when we mention that we're going to Wales, though. That guy from the bar overhears us and tells us that we can get to Wales by traveling through an old mine shaft. Of course, there is a huge accident there, so it's full of ghosts and other nefarious monsters. While exploring the inn, I happen upon Kato's room, and he and Yuri have a quick conversation about Alice and the mistletoe curse on him. Yuri and Kato both recently lost someone they deeply cared about, and can't help feeling like it's their fault. Covenant has a much lighter tone than Shadow Hearts, but there are plenty of scenes like this that remind you that these games are about loss at the end of the day, about how you can experience that loss and still connect with people and find happiness. I think that's part of what makes these games special. They're edgy, yeah, especially the first one, but underneath all that, there still is a really touching story. Anyway, when Yuri mentions that he was cursed by Sapientis Gladio, Kato has a strong reaction to it. Yuri doesn't push it, but Kato obviously knows a lot more than he's letting on. That night, Yuri sees Jean in the graveyard again. She says that she's looking for Yuri's happiness, specifically what makes him happy, but she can't find it anywhere. Since Alice gave her life for his, he feels like he has to live for her sake. But other than that, he doesn't really have a reason to keep going. Getting vengeance for the villagers of Domremy is keeping him going for now, but what after that? She asks where his happiness is, and we get the option to choose between it must be in here somewhere or you can't see it with the naked eye. There are a few of these dialogue choices, and most of them don't change much. Most. Happiness is a strong reoccurring theme in this game. Every 45 minutes, you get a cutscene with Jean or somebody asking Yuri about his happiness and how he's going to find it. She also mentions that there's a door in here that she can't open. That's probably not important. The next morning, someone set up a wrestling ring. Down comes the Great Gamma, Joachim's teacher and pro wrestler. This is how you improve Joachim's special abilities, by defeating Great Gamma in duels. Not much else to say about it, I suppose. Up next is the Mineshaft dungeon. It's just a transitionary area, and no plot really happens in there. We arrive at Nemeton Monastery, where Bacon lives. Yuri gives a quick refresher of the last game, with Albert Simon summoning the god and whatever, and we start looking for Bacon. Too bad, he was kidnapped back at the start of the game. Lenny followed us here, and wants to settle things. We don't know where they took Bacon, but luckily Lenny's got rocks for brains, and Yuri tricks him into telling us. It's great, he just insists over and over that Lenny doesn't know.
I knew it. You got no idea.
I told you, you little punk. I do know.
Right.
Really? I do know, really.
Yeah, right.
It's true. It's true. He's in Italy. Florence, Italy. Oh.
After a quick ass kicking, they run away, and some guy named Thomas shows up. He doesn't tell us much, but he does show us a video of Bacon getting kidnapped. Yeah, dude, we already knew that. Apparently he also has a bone to pick with Sapientis Gladio. He believes they're behind a string of murders of high-level government officials all over Europe. He wants to help us track them down, and tells us about a fortune teller, Carla, in Florence, Italy. He says that she'll probably help us if we mention his name. Who the hell is this guy? Florence starts with a cutscene of this fortune teller doing a dance with tarot cards floating around her. It's cool and all, but what does that have to do with fortune telling? We stuck around after the show to ask her some questions. She and the old lady in charge, Carla, don't want to hear us out, but once we mention Thomas and Sapientis Gladio, she still doesn't really want to. Yuri says pretty please, and that's convincing enough, I guess. First we need to go with Lucia to collect a flower that's used in the incantations. Lucia's a bit of an airhead, it seems. The flower grows on a small island nearby, and there's a huge mansion there. She used to live there, but she doesn't remember where the flower is, and accidentally activates a trap that summons enemies. To get to the end, we have to run around collecting zodiac signs to open doors. And at one point there's a puzzle that made me so mad. Not because it's hard, but because it's not even a puzzle. This door can only be opened by someone with AB blood type. Lucia is type B, and Karen is type A, but nobody else knows their blood type. Luckily, there's a machine in the room to compare blood types. If they're compatible, nothing happens, but if their blood types aren't compatible, it lights up. Now, I was getting excited. I got out my puzzle-solving notebook and everything, but then they just told you the answer. You can just use the machine as many times as you want, and Karen flat out tells you that you just need to find someone who makes the door light up when comparing them with both her and Lucia. So the solution to the puzzle is to go down the list comparing people until you reach Geppetto and see that he's the answer. There's no deducing, there's no limitation. It's not even a puzzle. It's just a waste of time. Fuck this room. Anyway, we get to the greenhouse, and while we're looking for the flower, Lucia opens up a lever and releases a giant pink cat.
That is one giant pussy.
Yuri!
This is where you all die.
Okay, so she was just putting on an airhead act to trick us, right? Well, no. Instead of killing us, the cat tries to eat her, so it's still kind of an airhead. Everyone is so gobsmacked that despite the murder attempt, they decide to help her out and beat up the giant pink cat. So, it turns out that when we showed up asking about Sapientes Gladio, they assumed we were hitmen. Carla used to be part of the secret society. But since then, she's left, and they've been after her. Lucia joins us, which is fine, I guess. Her mechanics are her essential oils and tarot cards. In battle, you can combine oils to get an effect based on the combination. You don't know the effect the first time, so it's a bit of trial and error. You can also pick a random tarot card from her deck. Some tarot card effects are entirely bad though, and she's the only party member that doesn't have a section where you have to use her, so I never did. Carla also tells us where the headquarters are for the Florence branch of Sapientes Gladio. Meanwhile, Nikolai and Lenny are sharing a drink in a crowded bar. Okay, weird. Nikolai has been torturing Bacon for information, but he's not giving anything up. The first floor of the hideout has a curious puzzle, you could call it, where you have to put in a certain time on the clock to proceed. There are a bunch of books lying around that give you hints, like this book about farts. Put that time in the clock and you get farted on. Whose idea was this? Which supervillain intern put a fart trap in here? It doesn't even do anything, it just smells bad. The rest of the dungeon is a single hallway with a bunch of backtracking and opening up new doors. We find the torture room, but Bacon is nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, there's a massive explosion and a hole's blown in the wall. An airship with Nikolai and Lenny on it is outside. Joke's on them, they just blew up their own hideout. Nikolai tells us that they're holding Bacon on St. Marguerite Island, and if we bring him the Emigre manuscript, they'll give him back. The Emigre manuscript is a forbidden book that was stolen from the Vatican years ago. It has power over life, and has been used by various villains in the series for nefarious purposes. After the events of the last game, Yuri and Bacon hid the manuscript away somewhere. It's in the giant ravine near Nematon Monastery. Now, I don't understand why, but we head there to get it. It makes no sense because, spoiler, the plan is to just break Bacon out of jail anyway, so taking the book out of its safe deposit box is a stupid idea. Yuri coming up with a plan like this, I understand, but Karen and Geppetto, at least one of them should know better. Anyway, we bumble our way through this weird-ass dungeon, kill the boss, and grab the manuscript. It was under a pile of pogs. Hallie thought we were doing a time capsule and insisted on putting something in there. As soon as Yuri picks it up, he's knocked out for a forced field trip to the graveyard. Not a lot happens. The Emigre manuscript is on the floor, there's some scary piano music. He has a flashback of Alice, but she's naked for some reason. Didn't he say this book had power over life and death or something? We head to Cannes next, a town near St. Marguerite Island. It's a prison island, and with some help from the locals, we boat over there. Within 30 seconds of arriving, a wolf steals the key that we need to get in. Luckily, we have our own wolf with us that can take it back. He has to fight the other one for it, which is weird. Why does he want it? What use does a wolf have for a key? Anyway, we make our way inside and are almost instantly captured. Veronica mixes some kind of paralyzing perfume and immobilizes everyone but Blanca.
Getting weaker.
Would you look at that? Nikolai stole the Emigre manuscript. Veronica promises that if someone volunteers to get tortured, she'll leave everyone else alone. We have to pick one party member to go with, and while they're there, we get a series of dialogue choices. Choose the right option all 3 times, and you'll get a reward afterward. I chose Joachim because he's cool, and the whole torture thing goes well with his superhero shtick. But I don't think this is an appropriate time to come out of the closet, Joachim. Nikolai leaves to deliver the manuscript to their leader, and the game shifts to a prison break sequence with Blanca. You've got to sneak around and... Wait, what the fuck? I know Blanca's supposed to be a smart wolf, but this is skinwalker behavior. I loathe mandatory stealth sections in non-stealth games, but luckily you can just ignore the stealth and kill all the enemies. At the end, you have to beat Veronica's guard dog, Oscar. It inflicted a strong poison effect, but I was able to brute force my way through it. After breaking everyone out, we managed to find Roger Bacon. Veronica and Lenny catch up to us though. Yuri tries the same "you don't even know, do you?" trick on her, but she says what kind of stupid idiot would fall for that? Man, poor Lenny out here catching strays. Lenny transforms into God Hand, and a boss fight begins. You do have to be a little careful, because there's 3 fights with Mooks right before this, with no chance to heal in between. He can petrify, but decent support magic can get rid of that pretty easily. I've also got a slow effect on my 2 muscle boys' main attacks, and while most bosses are immune to it, he isn't, and it makes the fight a lot easier. After the fight, Lenny just says, "You got me," and falls out the window. Alright, see you later, Lenny. They untie Bacon, and they pull the same gag from the last game, where it pretends to let you name him. It's a little less convincing here though, since you can't name anyone else. He looks so weird in this game. Why do his lips look like that? He looks like an iPad kid. They made 2 models for him too, and they switch between them seemingly at random. According to Bacon, starting secret societies was all the rage in the end of the 1800s. Sapientes Gladio wasn't always the assholes it is today. They were incredibly altruistic and idealistic until someone rose to power that turned it into a bunch of terrorists. Why did they target Bacon? Well, partly for the Emigre manuscript, but also because he just built a nuclear-powered jet that can travel across the world insanely fast. You know, I'm starting to think they're playing it a little fast and loose with the technology level of this World War I era setting. They take off in the Bacon jet, yes, that's what he calls it, to go to Petrograd, Russia, and confront the leader of Sapientes Gladio, Grigory Rasputin. Wait. The real-life Grigory Rasputin? I can't do the story justice because my knowledge is limited to a skimming of the Wikipedia page and the Boney M song, but it is wild. Very long story cut very short. He was a Russian faith healer who became a family friend of Nicholas II before the fall of the Russian Empire. He did a bunch of bad stuff and was eventually assassinated and dumped into the river. Understatement of the fucking century. Moving on to Petrograd, we get a cutscene of Rasputin. He's just had an intimate evening with Veronica, and they talk a bit about his plan to supplant the current emperor of Russia after healing his son. He warns her that Yuri will be showing up again, and to keep an eye on Nikolai. Apparently he's been secretly meeting with the Japanese envoy. Is he talking about Kato? Outside the room, a little girl is trying to eavesdrop on them. This is the Princess Anastasia. She knows that Rasputin is up to something. She cares deeply about the Russian people and is a bit fed up with the royal family's neglect of the needs of the people. Her brother Alexei has been sick for a long time, and Rasputin managed to heal him. The Empress specifically seemed to have been hit hardest by her son's illness, considering that we never see her without Alexei or vice versa. We play as Anastasia for this short section, where we have to sneak out of the palace to meet Edgar the Clockmaker and Tinkerer. She's had to make 2 items for her, a camera and the mystic egg. The clockwork egg is what she uses as a weapon when she joins the party. Yes, the little girl is a party member. The other thing is a camera, so she can collect evidence of Rasputin's scheming. In walks Kato, looking to get his watch fixed. This pretty much confirms he's who Nikolai was meeting with. Meanwhile, Anastasia sees Rasputin meeting with someone, planning an assassination. She can't hear all the details, but she takes out a camera and takes a picture. He spots her and sends the assassin after her. A monster corners her in an alley, but Yuri and company are passing by and jump in to save her. Now, her mechanic in combat is really interesting. She can use her camera to take a picture of enemies, adding them to her collection. When fighting enemies that have had their pictures taken, it'll show their element and exact health. Some enemies will also unlock a special skill for Anastasia to use when it's taken. This is super useful against bosses, especially if you use a lot of magic attacks. I went through most of the game opting to use standard attacks from the 2 muscle boys, mostly using magic to buff and heal them. Even so, having that information was really nice, so I kept her in the party for most of the game. Back at Edgar's shop, she tells the party that Rasputin is planning something for the victory reception. Yuri has the idea to pose as her bodyguards in the meantime. I don't know, I think it'd be more convincing to be a traveling circus troupe. We cut to a meeting between Nikolai and Kato. He's just given Kato the Emigre manuscript, and in exchange, he promises that whoever the next leader of Russia is, they'll have complete support from Japan. Kato wants to meet with Rasputin, but Nikolai's really cagey about it. So Nikolai's scheming with Japan, but trying to cut Rasputin out of whatever deal he's making. And who knows what Kato needs the Emigre manuscript for. Not only that, but Rasputin knows that Nikolai is up to something, but doesn't seem to be putting in an effort to stop it. Back at the palace, Edgar introduces us as some people that rescued Anastasia from a wild dog. Even though we did save her daughter, the Empress doesn't want to give a gaggle of strangers free reign over the palace, which is entirely reasonable. Rasputin enters and surprisingly suggests that she go easy on us. All of the actions we've seen Rasputin take have implied complete confidence in himself. Why else would he let Nikolai make these deals behind his back? Or essentially give his enemies a free pass to try and stop him, unless he was entirely sure that there was nothing we could do to stop it. Little does he know, the game's called Shadow Hearts, not Rasputin's Big Day Out, so we're going to at least give him a run for his money. The Empress leaves, and we can talk a bit more candidly with Rasputin. A fight's about to break out, but he suggests we fight somewhere better. The Lion Shrine on the northern end of the palace. Also, Veronica is there. Hi, Veronica. Shortly after, during the ball that evening, everyone in the palace is put to sleep by one of Veronica's perfumes. It seems like Rasputin isn't going to wait for us to confront him. He's got Alexei, and the palace is filled with monsters. Now, this is funny. This is about 15 hours into the game, and it's also the point that I realized I'd been making the game harder for no reason. Remember the ring types, specifically the technical ring, where hit areas are much smaller, and missing one loses the whole attack, but strike areas are extra powerful? Well, I had a slight misunderstanding about them. You see, I thought that the technical ring improved the power of all hit areas, not just the strike zones. I also gave Yuri and Joachim as many hit areas as possible. Problem is, every additional hit area shrinks the others, so that, combined with the technical ring, they were just tiny. For me, that was fine, because I was confident in my ability to hit the regular areas consistently. I looked around a bit, and people were saying that the best strategy for the technical ring is to just use one hit area, and use items to expand the strike area of that one hit as much as possible so you could always get a strike. I was doing the exact opposite. And you know what? Despite making it hard for no reason, I was still pretty consistent, and the game wasn't difficult. Sometimes there'd be a string of battles where I would mess up like 3 attacks in a row, but that was rare, and would usually only happen after playing the game for like 6 hours straight. So, I left the technical ring on for everybody. My line of reasoning was that it would be too easy otherwise. Playing this way would require more brain power and keep me engaged for longer. Besides, there definitely won't be another core system that I misunderstand that makes things harder for no reason. Right? Anyway, after running around for an hour because I managed to get lost in this H-shaped building, we finally confront Rasputin, and he reveals his plan. He wants to take control of Russia and use it to conquer all of Europe. The aristocrats of the Russian Empire are too detached from the regular people, and a revolution is imminent. If a change in leadership is already going to happen, he might as well make sure he's the one to take up that role. He says he'll let Alexei and Anastasia go if Yuri can beat him in a duel. Yuri tries, but Rasputin has some kind of shield protecting him. He invokes the mistletoe, and it knocks Yuri out without a fight. Seemingly to rub salt in the wound, he tells Karen that her hometown has been completely wiped off the map. He then takes control of Anastasia and forces her to try and kill her brother. But right before she can, he undoes his control over the Empress, and the way this plays out is a really nice subversion.
Alexei! Anastasia!
No, it wasn't me.
All is well, Your Highness. The prince is unhurt. Just as I thought, Anastasia was being controlled by the stranger's magic.
Why, you?
Guards, arrest them! They tried to assassinate the prince!
Damn it.
I genuinely thought he was going to frame Anastasia with attempting to kill her brother out of jealousy or something. But I can kind of see why Rasputin would have it play out this way. The former would leave way too much margin of error. If someone could prove that she was mind-controlled, it would have made his lie fall apart. Also, putting the blame entirely on Anastasia wouldn't necessarily implicate Yuri and company. But this way, he can use it to tell a half-truth and retain credibility while still making us enemies of the Imperial family. I might be overthinking it a bit. We scoop up Anastasia and flee back to Edgar's shop. Morale is a bit low, but Bacon has a plan, and it's to leave. Just kidding. Oh, I mean, we are leaving, though. Bacon tracked down Jovis, the man who started Sapientis Gladio, before they were terrorists. He's in the Gorame Valley in Turkey. As they get close, the party is ambushed, but luckily Thomas is there and diffuses the situation. Jovis is the religious leader to a small group of people here, and they're incredibly protective of him. Thomas reveals that his real name is Edward Lawrence, and that he works for the British Intelligence Bureau. This guy, I don't know, he just kind of shows up a couple times and doesn't really matter. Last time, he just showed us a video of Bacon getting kidnapped, but it was literally right after Lenny told us he did it. He also pointed us towards Carla and Lucia, but they ended up trying to kill us despite us knowing him, so a lot of good that was. While here, we gain access to King Solomon's Trials, a series of optional challenges. They range from winning 5 easy fights in a row with one character, to winning fights with incredibly restrictive Judgment Ring effects. Doing all of them leads to an optional boss or something. I didn't do it though, they were kind of a pain. We meet Jovis, and he's blind, but despite that, he recognizes Yuri. Or rather, he recognizes Amon, the god of wrath, trapped inside of him. He also can tell that Yuri is afflicted with the Mistletoe's curse. But what about Rasputin? Well, Jovis and his friend, who started Sapientes Gladio with him, took Rasputin in as a disciple. By the time they realized he was insane, Rasputin had already made a soul pact with Asmodeus, king of the demons. He defeated them and became the new leader of Sapientes Gladio. Asmodeus' power is what protected him from our attacks before. Unable to resist though, Rasputin's soul was eventually completely devoured by Asmodeus. His ultimate goal isn't just to take over Russia, it's to destroy the entire world. Jovis' friend sought out the most powerful demon he could find, and formed a soul pact with Amon. Sound familiar? Yep, Jovis' old friend was Albert Simon. But wait, wasn't Simon's plan to also destroy the world when he summoned God? Well, it's a little ambiguous, so I may have misinterpreted it, but I think it went like this. Simon knew that even with Amon, a direct confrontation with Rasputin and Asmodeus would not be a guaranteed victory. Their plans to end the world were not the same either. Asmodeus reveled in manipulating mankind into killing each other. If he got his way, the world would be locked into a never-ending bloody war that would eventually wipe out all of humanity. Simon, on the other hand, would have God come over, hit the reset button real quick, and hopefully a kinder world would emerge from the ashes. The whole thing smells strongly of a retcon, and honestly it feels like they talked themselves into a corner with it. Before, Simon was disillusioned with the future of mankind and wanted to fix it, even if it meant destroying everything. Amon was kind of an afterthought, he was just the demon he made a pact with so he could do his plan. Now it's like Asmodeus wants to destroy the world, Simon makes a pact with Amon to stop it. That makes enough sense, but then he goes for the I'm gonna destroy the world first plan. So you've got Amon, so you could break Rasputin's shield and then didn't even try? It feels like they were trying to retroactively make him a sympathetic villain, but honestly he already kind of was one. Especially at the end where he goes, no hard feelings, maybe strong people like you could make the world better. I don't know, I might be overthinking this again. I took like a 3-week break from writing the script when I got to this part. Anyway, we can use Amon to fight Rasputin, but it's currently sealed away by the Mistletoe curse. Jovis also tells us what the endgame of the curse is. Eventually, it'll wear away Yuri's power of will and soul, and he'll go permanently insane. I'm not too worried though, because Yuri already went permanently insane in the last game, and he turned out just fine. To get Amon back from the Mistletoe, we have to head into Yuri's soul and pass some kind of trial. Karen volunteers to go in with us, and we need to go into a previously locked door in the graveyard. It leads to the Mirror Palace. As the name suggests, it's confusing as hell. The gimmick is that there are a bunch of mirrors around, and going through them brings you to a mirrored version of the dungeon after fighting copies of Yuri and Karen. It kind of felt like I was missing something, like it should have been more complicated than it was, but I made it to the end in about 25 minutes, so I'm not going to dwell on it too long. At the end, we have to fight Amon, light work no reaction, and go into the last mirror. On the other side, Albert Simon is waiting for us on a bench overlooking the sea. Since Yuri took control of Amon, who had a soul pact with Simon, a small part of him is living inside Yuri. It's a pretty heartwarming scene. They mostly talk about stuff we already know, but at the end he gives Yuri a bit of a pep talk. Yuri's not sure if he can even beat Rasputin, or if he can make the world a better place afterward. I really like the scene. The voice acting is a little off, with the weird pauses from them trying to match the original mouth movements, but the actual dialogue is nice. Simon comes off as hopeful, and I think that's what Yuri really needed to hear in this moment. As we part ways, Simon asks where we are, and Yuri tells him Kajuragi, the Forest of Wind. That's going to be important later. With this, we've unlocked Amon's soul and can fuse with him for the rest of the game. In Russia, Nikolai is telling Rasputin that Japan has agreed to their deal. Soon, Japan will be attacking the German Empire. America hasn't entered the war, but they will soon enough after the Lusitania is sunk by the Germans. Back with the main party, they're waiting for Jovis to recover from the ritual they used to free Amon, and Yuri and Karen are sharing a moment alone together. Yuri regrets coming here. Things were peaceful, but now Jovis might not wake up, and who knows what goons could have followed them here. They talk about the people here trying to find happiness. Sound familiar? Jovis wakes up, but he doesn't have long. He tells us that a third god, Astaroth, has made a soul pact with someone. I'll give you 3 guesses who that is. Yuri feels incredibly guilty, not only for Jovis's death, but for the people of the valley, since he was their leader. Jovis reassures Yuri that if the people lost hope after his death, then that's his failing, not Yuri's. He says some more stuff, but this script is getting way too long. He dies. It's sad. We then head back to Russia, just as the Tsar returns from a tour of the Eastern Front. Before the victory banquet, Rasputin pushes the idea that we're trying to assassinate him and the rest of the noble family. Now pay attention to this next part, I sure didn't. Sean tells us that unsealing Amon has also woken up other strong fusions. This unlocks the tier 3 fusions. There are soul drops around the game, 1 for each elemental fusion. After we have the level 2 summons from spending soul charge in the graveyard, we can take a soul drop and fight a shadow version of it to unlock it. These last fusions are all awesome. They're huge, they have cool designs, and they're really strong. You will hear more about them, just not yet. Okay, let's get back on track. We need to get into the palace, but they're on high alert because, they think we kidnapped Anastasia. To do that, we have to go through the sewers. It's a fine dungeon. You have to run around opening doors. We get in and are able to jump in and save the Tsar right as the assassin attacks him. Not only that, it's the same one that Anastasia got a picture of with Rasputin. Also, Kato is here. Hi, Kato. Surprisingly, the Tsar believes our evidence and turns on Rasputin right away. Rasputin flees, and a commotion starts in the courtyard. The Sapientes Gladio airship starts bombing the shit out of everything. We run over to a rooftop terrace and have to fight Veronica to get to Rasputin. She turns into this big purple booba snake, and the fight required some brain usage, but I was never at risk of losing. Rasputin's about to get away, but Yuri remembers that Amon has wings and absolutely beats his ass like a bongo and crashes the airship. Rasputin invokes his soul pact with Asmodeus and summons a big-ass floating castle. Rasputin is looking rough. Asmodeus has taken over and the mask has fallen. No more scheming, no more politics, now he's just having his demons destroy shit. Nikolai isn't really on board with this plan. He was a bastard son of the Tsar, and has claim to the Russian throne. If Asmodeus destroys Russia, there won't be a Russia for him to take over. Nikolai doesn't do much right now, but he does tell Rasputin that he's confident that Yuri could beat him. He says that Yuri's stronger because of his willpower. Yuri having the will to control Amon makes him stronger than if Amon took over, like with Rasputin and Asmodeus. Nikolai is also the one who made a soul pact with Astaroth. Make your bets, guys! Who's gonna be the final boss of the game? Everyone goes to bed, and Nikolai shows up in Karen's dreams and is all, oh yeah, Yuri's a chump. He can't take care of you like I can. I'm a real man. And Karen calls him a creep and a loser, true story. And Nikolai disappears and presumably goes off to make a 4chan account. One thing of note that he brings up is that Yuri won't ever move on from Alice's death. He'll never love anyone the same way he loved her. Now that everyone's rested up, it's time to confront Rasputin, hopefully for the last time. The dungeon, Idar Flame, feels very H.R. Giger inspired. It's all very alien, including the enemies, which range from little wormy guys to spiky spinning death snakes. It also felt like there was a small bump in difficulty here, but it's smoothed out just from leveling up in the dungeon. I think this is more criticism of the genre than of Shadow Hearts. Of all the JRPGs I played, none of them had a satisfactory level of difficulty. Either they're so easy that you can just hold X to beat the game, or they're designed in a way that winning is only possible with the exact intended meta strategy. I'm the kind of person to forego the meta in favor of strategies that are more fun or have a higher cool factor, so I don't fault Shadow Hearts for its lack of difficulty. The story more than makes up for it. In the confrontation with him, Rasputin tries to invoke the mistletoe on Yuri, but unsealing Amon has weakened the curse. There's some witty banter before the fight begins.
Bite me.
No. You will bite me.
Okay, maybe witty isn't the right word. Asmodeus is gross, and that's good. Even though the overall tone of this game's a lot lighter than Shadow Hearts 1, it's nice to know they still have some freak shows up their sleeves. It also reminds me of a crucifixion, which is a cool design choice. I opened the fight with a third key item, which in retrospect was stupid as fuck. For the uninitiated, the keys are a series of items that, on use, allow the Judgment Ring to make several rotations in one attack, allowing you to hit many more times that turn. There are the 3rd, 5th, and 7th varieties, with the number denoting how many times the ring will spin. Just watch Joachim in his bat form turn into a machine gun with only a 3rd key. It worked out this time, but since I'm on the technical ring, missing any of those hit areas would have lost me the entire attack and the item. Asmodeus manages to knock out a party member a couple times, but oddly enough, they gave Amon a full heal revival spell, so it didn't even matter. After beating him, Rasputin reveals that the true conclusion of the Mistletoe's curse is to completely kill someone's soul, leaving them technically alive but without any of their personality or memories. We've slowed it down, but there's no way to stop it. He also tells us that Nikolai is headed to Apoina Tower to release the malice locked away there. The dungeon breaks apart. Wait, wasn't that in the sky above Petrograd? Well, whatever. There's so much malice trapped in Apoina that, if released, it will spread across the whole world, causing brutal conflict and even more death. Nikolai opens the seal, and nobody even tries to stop him. Alright, boss time, I guess. We fought Asmodeus not even 30 minutes ago, but Astaroth wants some too, so who am I to deny him? It was surprisingly easy, but Kato shows up, literally walks in from stage right with 2 goons and closes the gate. Since Nikolai is allegedly the next in line to the Russian throne, Kato, under the Emperor of Japan's authority, rescues him from us. This marks the more or less halfway point of the game, as it prompts you to switch to Disc 2. Disc 2 opens with the explanation that, due to the release of the Malice, the intensity of the war increased, and chemical weapon use became common. Yuri, where are your nipples? Yuri and the gang follow Kato to Japan, and most of the second disc takes place there. Anastasia crashed the jet in a forest, so we're stuck in Japan until Bacon finishes fixing it. Should we have left him out there all by himself? I mean, we're probably gonna get back there and find a still broken jet, and a suspiciously Roger Bacon-shaped pile of bear shit. Yuri's got a bad case of seasickness, and in the meantime, Blanca goes on a solo adventure. He sees a swordsman being pursued by some soldiers and runs in to help. The swordsman, Kurando, is protecting this old man and young girl from assassins. The next morning, we all go out looking for Blanca, and when we find him, the assassins attack again. They injure Kurando, kidnap the young girl, and Blanca chases after them. Since we're the good guys, we're obviously gonna help rescue her, despite the fact that they don't want us to get involved. Kurando joins the party, and Blanca comes back to lead us to them. The kidnappers were surprisingly military men, as they brought her to a huge battleship, the Mikasa. The captain of the ship is a bit at odds with the kidnappers, but they're operating under the authority of someone called Minister Ishimura, so he doesn't have a choice there. We get on the ship, and considering the whole kidnapping thing, the sailors aren't going to stop us. They're not going to help us either, but that's fine. This dungeon took me a long time. The gimmick is that you split up into 2 teams, one on the lower deck and one in the middle. Each team has a key that can be inserted into numbered terminals to open doors around the ship. Luckily, there's a map showing which terminals open which doors. Unluckily, it's confusing as hell. I took one look at this map and decided I was better off brute forcing this puzzle. I'm going to skip over the next 45 minutes of gameplay, but long story short, I got 90% of the way there before I gave up and started deciphering the map. Then it only took like 5 minutes. We kick Lieutenant Colonel Torada's ass and rescue the girl. She introduces herself as Yoshiko Kawashima, and the older man was Naniwa Kawashima. Wait a minute, Kawashima? Same as the Kawashima from the first game? Before we can escape, the ship's captain stops us at gunpoint, and the scene changes. Foreign Minister Ishimura is informing Kato and this wrinkly fuck about Torada's failure to get rid of the Kawashimas. They talk about a project Kato's been working on, his apes. Ever since he got back from Russia, he's been in his laboratory non-stop. Despite his odd behavior, Kato is incredibly competent, so the minister is going to keep him around. There's a lot of weird political intrigue stuff that gets introduced in the Japan section, and in my opinion, it's kind of just whatever. Something about Kawashima adopting a daughter of the Qing dynasty and wanting to start a resistance state on mainland Asia. There was a little bit of that in Shadow Hearts 1 with Kawashima, and now in Covenant with the Europe section with Rasputin and the royal family, but it doesn't really feel like it matters here, it all just kind of happens. I think it works better in Shadow Hearts 1 because there, the national conflicts were used as more of an aspect of the setting, and it worked because the political intrigue tapered off as it transitioned into the mustache-twirling I'm gonna end the world plot. But now, the end of the world plot took place in the first half of the game, and we're being introduced to all these new characters whose motivations are only tangentially related to what we were dealing with before. It's like they took the Shadow Hearts 1 plot and did it in reverse. Luckily, Giga Chad Kato is still here, and he doesn't even really care about all that. He's got his own thing going on. Up next is a short gameplay section where you play as Oka, Kato's latest project. She's one of the mutant apes that the minister mentioned. You go through sparring with the other two apes, Hien and Raiden, and do a shooting gallery before the three of you go through a boss fight for the final test. Cut back to the main gang, and we've just been let go after being held there for 3 days. It honestly feels like they forgot to include a cutscene because they're just all referring to stuff that happened off screen. They let us out because Kawashima vouched for us. That, and Anastasia's technically an ambassador for Russia. Weird side thing? Anastasia told them that Karen's name was Anne, so they didn't know she was German. Coincidentally, that was also Yuri's mother's name. The whole reason that the Kawashimas were here in Yokohama was to visit a grave, and they invite us to visit with them. When we get there, the terrain turns into some kind of spirit world and we find Kurando passed out. He fuses with a spirit and attacks. After beating him in that form, he rejoins the party, and his ability to fuse is unlocked. Unlike Yuri though, he can only fuse with 2 spirits, and the other one is optional and relatively hidden. That wrinkled baby man is the cause of this, so we beat his ass. He was surprisingly powerful. He hit pretty hard and could completely drain party members' MP. He ran away, but the graveyard went back to normal, and the Kawashimas are alright. The grave they were coming to visit was Lieutenant Colonel Kawashima's grave. It's now formally revealed that Naniwa is the father of the Kawashima we knew that died in Shanghai. Meanwhile, the scientist Dr. Hojo is experimenting on Nikolai. Why is he shooting electricity at his wiener? He's trying to extract a monster from him, presumably some form of Astaroth. Nikolai is injured, so Astaroth is weakened in turn. Kato thinks that they're playing with fire. Whatever power they can get from him will be too strong for them to control. For now, they're trying to transfer its power into a new vessel, a dog. Either way, they want Nikolai's powers removed so they can use them in negotiations with Russia. They turn the machine to max and manage to extract some power, but it's too much for the vessel. As the apes are about to dispose of the body, it comes back to life and transforms. Kato tells them to escape and orders them not to attack. It's about to kill Hien when Oka interferes, immobilizing it. The beast escapes, and Kato is pissed at Oka for disobeying him. He orders them to go look for it, but not to attack it. He also makes it very clear that disobeying an order again will mean a swift death. There's a short flashback with Kawashima, showing that he knew Yuri's father before he moved to the mainland. Yuri's having kind of a personal crisis right now, because his father fought and died to protect Japan, but now he's fighting to stop them. He feels like he's fighting not just against Japan, but his father's legacy. Karen tells him while Yuri's dad was fighting for Japan, it was definitely for him and his mother's sake more than the country itself. They talk about his mother a bit, and weird detail. She named Yuri after her first lover? That's kind of weird. This conversation also kind of proves the point Nikolai was making about Yuri, because Karen is all over him, and he's just kind of in his own world. She even asks him about Alice, and he acts like he needs to take a shit to get away from it. He's just like me for real. Also, there's 2 perverts watching them from the bushes. The city's attacked by that monster that Kato and Dr. Hojo released. It's a lot bigger now, and Yuri could also sense that it came from Nikolai. Kato shows up and has the mutant apes help us take it down. Kato is technically an antagonist now, but it's more of a on opposite teams kind of situation. In fact, he respects Yuri, and after taking down the beast, instead of fighting us, he tells us where they're holding Nikolai. Something just isn't adding up here. Why is Kato even working for Minister Ishimura? He's a pretty bad dude, and he doesn't seem that loyal to him either, considering he just told us where to go. But besides making the mutated apes, we don't really know much about what he's up to or why he's doing it. Yuri realized that Oka's voice sounded a lot like Kawashima, so that's what he used the Emigre manuscript for. He must have used it to bring her back to life or something. But everyone else who's tried failed spectacularly, so how's this different? Either way, we need to get into the research lab, but for some arbitrary reason we can't just walk right in, so we steal some uniforms for a disguise. I doubt they've got one in Joachim's size, but whatever. Meanwhile, in the lab, Kato admits to Oka that he's just using Minister Ishimura for his own goals, and that he still can't move past Kawashima. Oka laments that she's just a copy of her. She's also very devoted to Kato.
My only wish is to be of use to my master. To be near my master. To spend time with my master. That is all I wish for. all that I want.
We manage to sneak our way down to where they're holding Nikolai, and the attempt to extract Astaroth begins again. To get to it, they have to push past Nikolai's ego. They push a little too hard though, and completely erode not only his ego, but his ability to control Astaroth, who quickly takes over his body and escapes. Whoops, maybe we shouldn't have stood around and watched the experiment. Kato and company chase after him, leaving us to deal with Dr. Hojo and his soldiers. Speaking of which, Dr. Hojo has come to play ball. He's got this Dr. Robotnik-ass pill bot, and the fight genuinely took 20 minutes. He just hit hard as fuck and even forced me to use a 5th key on him. And yeah, he's probably a reference to Dr. Hojo from Final Fantasy VII. He dies, eventually, and we escape the lab. This makes Minister Ishimura so mad that he almost throws up right there on the carpet. His health is declining rapidly, so he sends Goran, the baby man, after Yuri again. We have no idea where Astaroth went, but Kawashima tells us to go to Katsuragi, the Forest of Wind. The good news is that Bacon is back. He didn't get eaten by bears, so now we can move between Europe and Japan all we want. On our way to Katsuragi, we find the very spot that we met with Simon at in Yuri's memories. Goran is up to his old tricks again. This time the whole party just falls through the ground. What the fuck? Yuri and co literally rage bait him into transforming into a giant turtle man. In this form, he's immune to magic damage, so our two muscle boys get to shine for this battle. For anyone curious, the party composition I've settled into that I kept for the rest of the game is this. Yuri and Joachim are the two meatheads. Their job is to punch people in the head as hard as they can. Anastasia and Blanca are on support duty. Blanca has a lot of healing and status curing crests equipped. Anastasia uses party-wide buffs, increasing speed and attack power, and if she has time, increasing defenses. It works well enough, assuming I don't fuck up the Judgment Ring too much. Goran definitely can't do anything about it, and we take him down for real this time. Probably. We finally arrive in Inugami Village, which is Kurando's hometown. His mother, and leader of the Inugami, Saki, is the one who can help us. She's had a premonition and can show us where Astaroth is.
It is now time to find the one that you have all been searching for.
What's that mountain?
It's Mount Fuji. Kato.
Look!
Nikolai. No, it's Astaroth.
His evil is like an armor, hiding him from my sight. No, wait. He's found me.
Look out!
Impertinent fools.
Mother!
Prepare to die.
He's taken over her body.
So editing right now, and I kind of just realized I left room for that cutscene in the script, and then didn't talk about the fight at all after that. So, yeah, we fight Saki, and then she turns back into normal. Yeah. After the fight, there's a short cutscene with Kato and the apes at the volcano while they look for Nikolai. This is all kinda out of nowhere, but Raiden says that after all this is sorted out, Kato wants to settle down and live a normal life with Oka. I say it came out of nowhere because, yeah, she's a copy of Kawashima, but the only real interaction they've had with each other is her giving her a hug and him not even saying anything back. Like, okay, sure, I guess. Conveniently, time is all fucky in the mountain, so each hour in there is several days outside, so we have as much time to screw around as we want. Saki's calmed down a bit, and she reveals that she's Yuri's aunt on his dad's side. So that's why Kurando confused too. He's from the same family as Yuri. Astaroth is camped out inside Mount Fuji, and he wants to force it to erupt and destroy Japan. We're kind of approaching the endgame here, and I have something pretty embarrassing to admit. Up until now, I haven't been unlocking new summons for Yuri. You remember all the way back at the start of the game, when I taught you to come to the graveyard to unlock new fusions, and how to upgrade those fusions separately in the menu? Well, I completely misunderstood. I hamstrung myself this whole playthrough by not unlocking a single level 2 fusion for Yuri. I even upgraded the Earth fusion to max level, assuming I would get another one once that was full. When that didn't happen, I just kind of assumed there was only one fusion for each element. I am so fucking stupid. Especially because I remember being kind of disappointed that all of the first level fusions were just different variations of guy who punches. I'm not even mad at the game, I'm mad at myself. What was going through my mind was 60% disappointment that I missed out on all these kick-ass fusions. I mean, look how cool that guy is. I felt like I missed out so hard, and it's entirely my fault. The other 40% was that I knew I'd have to explain this catastrophic blunder to you, my dear audience. The only reason I found out was because I noticed the soul drops were building up in my inventory. Imagine the roller coaster of emotions I went through when I googled soul drop, only to read that they're used to unlock the level 3 summons. 3? I didn't even know about level 2! Alright, well, either way, I'm in Mount Fuji, and I've got a bunch more fusions. Hooray. This place is confusing as hell. There are these stones that you put in shrines or something to activate teleporters. Different stones make the teleporters go to different places, and I don't know, I just kind of brute forced it. I was too disheartened by the whole fusion thing to give a shit. We catch up to Kato, and they're all pretty beat up. Astaroth, in Nikolai's body, is in this crystal for some reason, and he goes on a villain monologue, but Yuri tells him to shove it up his ass. Astaroth doesn't even say anything, he just starts the fight. We beat the shit out of Astaroth Neo, and doing so brings back Nikolai, but he's still an asshole. Up next is an almost comical series of events. Nikolai calls Karen over, but Yuri pushes her aside, and he attacks Yuri with the mistletoe again. Then Kato jumps in and saves Yuri, and Nikolai tries to stab Kato, but then Oka jumps in to protect Kato. Anyone else want in on this? Well, the conga line ended with Oka, and she dies. Kato loses his shit and literally crushes Nikolai's skull with one hand.
Karen!
Damn. Yuri wakes up in the graveyard, and there's still a locked door we haven't gotten into. He hears Alice's voice on the other side of it.
Yuri.
Alice?
We wake up in Inugami Village, and Kato left a message for us. If we live, we should meet him at the cemetery in Yokohama. When we get there, he's visiting Kawashima's grave, the original one. He tells us where exactly to find Minister Ishimura. Oh, right, kinda forgot about him. He also gives the Emigre manuscript back, and tells us that Bacon can use it to bring Alice back to life. Kato also officially declares us his enemy, and that he's going to end the world himself. He won't be doing it by making a soul pact like Rasputin and Nikolai did either. He bids us farewell and goes off to do whatever evil plan he's got. Man, Kato's such a great character. He was kind of a lovable dingus in Shadow Hearts 1, and even though now he's a total badass and presumably going to be the final boss, I can't even bring myself to dislike him. He's an interesting foil to Yuri. At the end of Shadow Hearts, they were both in a very similar place. They both lost their loved ones in a way that made them feel like it was their fault. The theme I felt with the first game was mostly a feeling of loss. There are so many characters in Shadow Hearts who are dealing with the loss of someone or something. Yuri's parents both died while he was young, and he spent most of his life as a wanderer before he met Alice, who, despite her father being killed, barely had any time to process it, as the man who killed him was after her too. Even Albert Simon, the main villain, he wasn't responding to the death of a person, but rather the loss of hope. He was an incredibly idealistic man who, over many years of being beaten down, decided, in his own twisted way, that he was going to make the world a better place, even if he had to destroy it to do so, at least before they retconned his motives a bit in this game. Shadow Hearts Covenant is about finding happiness, yes, but it's through the lens of grief. It asks, how do you find happiness when the good is temporary and the bad stays with you forever? What does this have to do with Kato and Yuri? Well, they responded to this grief in almost the complete opposite ways. Yuri felt like he had to find happiness for Alice's sake, so that her sacrifice for him wasn't for nothing. He even said at the beginning of the game that he won't be looking for a way to bring her back. He wants to live enough life for the two of them, but he doesn't know how to do that. For now, he's doing what he can, fighting to protect people, despite everything he's lost. Kato, on the other hand, couldn't even imagine a life without Kawashima. He did bad things, helped bad people, all just for the chance to bring her back. And now that he's lost Kawashima again, he's lost all hope. We don't know his exact plan yet, but he seems to have gone the way of Albert Simon and plans to do something drastic. But before worrying about Kato, we've got some other things to take care of. First is a piece of side content to unlock an improved version of Amon, Neo Amon. The manor that Yuri and Karen went into to wake Amon exists in the real world too. It's the Tifoge Castle, and it's where Simon originally made his soul pact with Amon. He gives us a quick history lesson, thanks Simon, and offers us the chance to fight with Neo Amon to unlock the more powerful version. Up next is Minister Ishimura. At this point, we're so strong we can launch a full-scale assault on their HQ with the 4 of us. This dungeon honestly feels more like a victory lap than a real dungeon. It's just a dozen scripted encounters with a handful of easy-to-kill soldiers. The boss of the area is Lieutenant Colonel Terada and his giant mech. It's entirely immune to physical damage, which, if you remember my current party dynamic, is a huge problem for me. My 2 muscle boys do have some spells, but it's still a massive DPS loss. Luckily, he can't kill us faster than I can heal us, so it's just an item fest. I don't really think I can do this next cutscene justice, so I'm just going to show you the whole thing.
So, you finally come.
You're Ishimura, the foreign minister?
I am he.
I've wanted to meet you.
You're Hyuga's son, aren't you?
Yeah.
And who has hired you to kill me? Russia? China?
Nobody.
Then, why is it that you seek to take my life?
'Cause you're nothing but a murdering son of a bitch.
Nonsense.
You're planning to use Nikolai to set off a war in Russia, aren't you?
To protect Japan. From the West, yes, that's correct.
What do you mean?
Unless someone in Asia stands up to them, the Western powers will take over here. China, Korea, and Japan all will fall. But I will not allow my beloved homeland to suffer such an ignoble destiny.
That's a load of bull. Why do you have to stir up a war in Russia to do that?
China capitulated, gave in to the West 100 years ago. Among all the nations of Asia, only Japan has been able to take a stand against them. But in order to successfully continue resisting, we must become bigger and stronger. We must plant the seeds of future power now on the Asian continent. And when the moment finally arrives for us to hurry, to the aid of the beleaguered Russia, it will be Japan that will become the supreme ruler of all of Eurasia.
So, that's why you've done all this?
Correct.
Is that why you used Kato to kidnap Nikolai?
It was always my firm intention to have him become the ruler of the new Russia.
That's insane. If you do that, it's gonna set off a whole new war.
All wars end eventually. Suffering is merely temporary.
What about all the people that will die?
An unfortunate necessity.
Bastard.
You can kill me, but my plan will not end. Someone will take my place. No. Stay in there, Kosuke. Kosuke, get away from here!
Leave my grandpa alone! Don't you dare touch my grandpa, you hear?
Out of the way!
Kosuke! Please. My grandson is innocent. Don't kill him! Don't kill him. I'm begging you. Please. Please.
Don't you dare beg for his life! What about the people you sent to kill in your name? What about the children whose lives have been snuffed out by your soldiers? How many parents have begged just like you for their children's lives? They cried and begged and pleaded for their lives. And they were killed anyway. They tried to protect their homes, and they were killed anyway. How many people will you sacrifice for your stupid, petty ambitions? Protecting them from the West, huh? Well, protect this! Doing it for your country, huh? Well, here's what I think of that! I say you did it for yourself! Stupid, arrogant idiot! You should rot in hell! Rot in hell! Rot in hell!
Honestly, it's a bit surprising to see imperialist Japan so negatively depicted in these games. It's my understanding that in Japan, all the shitty early 1900s war crime stuff kind of gets swept under the rug nowadays. I mean, I'm not really a historian, nor am I Japanese, so that's as far as I'm going to get into that. Ultimately, Yuri couldn't bring himself to kill Ishimura. He and Bacon are having a tender moment on a cliff in Katsuragi when Bacon drops an absolute bombshell. He's going to bring Alice back to life for us. This is such a colossally bad idea. I mean, it's been tried multiple times in this game series, and every time it went horribly wrong. When this plan was revealed, I was honestly a little mad. It felt so out of character, especially since Yuri explicitly said at the beginning that he wasn't going to look for a way to bring her back. And the worst thing is that Bacon just volunteered to do it. Nobody even asked him. Bacon is the one guy here who should know better. But whatever, let's bring Alice back to life. Meanwhile, Karen's asking Saki if she thinks Yuri will ever be able to love her, and Saki's like, yeah, of course, stupid. She's about to have egg on her face. Before she leaves, Saki gives her a photograph of young Yuri with his parents. We head to Zurich and visit Alice's grave, and Yuri gives Karen the cross necklace on it. It used to belong to his mother, then his father, then finally Alice. He wants her to carry it in case something happens to him. To make this stupid-ass resurrection plan more likely to succeed, we need to grab a chunk of something called the moon crystal from the Queen's Garden. Someone else was here recently, presumably Kato. The dungeon isn't anything to sneeze at, just some chess-based puzzles and a weird baby boss. Could have used a little more boss, a little less baby in my opinion. Have I mentioned how stupid I think this plan is? So, how does the Emigre manuscript bring people back to life anyway? And why does it go horribly every time? Well, there's 3 different stages. First, a vessel must be made to be the body for the resurrected person. Now this next step is the crux of the whole process. The Emigre manuscript is used to distort time, making the vessel quickly grow to the proper age. Finally, the soul of the deceased is pulled from the afterlife and bound to the new body. The part that always goes horribly wrong is that last step there. That's why Kato is able to successfully create Oka. He didn't bind her soul to the vessel, so she was essentially just a regular clone instead of a true resurrection. Bacon is trying to go the whole 9 yards though. If this works, the new Alice will have her soul and memories, and it'll be as if she never died. Alright, let's get this started. I can't wait to go fight whatever horrible boss is about to spawn from this.
By the wheels of the cherubim, take this soul beyond the gates of time. The crystal! Oh my, oh dear. Her soul isn't returning.
Alice. I love you.
I love you too.
Amazing.
That was a surprisingly poignant scene. From a narrative standpoint, I'm glad it didn't work. It would have felt like such a cop-out to bring her back. Considering the tone of the series as a whole, I knew that it would fail, but I wasn't expecting such a punch to the gut. I'm also glad they didn't have her turn into a monster or something and launch into a boss fight. That would have taken me right out of it. Luckily, we did learn something about Kato's plan.
Is planning to create a warp in the fabric of time-space.
A warp in time-space?
There's another scene with Jean in the graveyard, and long story short, she makes Yuri promise to find what makes him happy before the curse can completely kill his soul. Some edgy stuff happens, and he finds himself on the train Alice passed away on. She tells him that she's proud of him, and that she'll never forget what they've gone through. He tells her that he's got one more thing to take care of, then he'll come back and be with her forever, which is a little alarming considering she's dead. Before confronting Kato, we have some girl stuff to take care of. Karen's at the waterfall in Katsuragi, and she confesses her love to Yuri. They do the classic I don't need an answer trope, and the cutscene ends without Yuri even saying anything. Okay. Now we're really in the end game. Once we go to Asuka Stone platform and watch the cutscene, the final dungeon opens up. Speaking of which, this cutscene is the best in the game. I'm just going to show it to you wholesale.
So, you've come.
That's right.
Did you meet Alice?
Yeah. Thank you. Do you still plan to destroy the world?
Yes. I plan to remake this world by bringing us 100 years into the past.
100 years?
Yes, 100 years. When the people that have warped this world had not yet been born. Then, I will be able to guide this world to a whole new future.
You think big.
So you're satisfied with the miserable state of the world. You're happy just to let things continue the way they've been.
No, I'm not. The future I want is the one that I create for myself, even if it costs me my own soul.
So you fight because of your beliefs?
No. Because of my destiny.
Soul of the ancient gods, soul of the land of Nippon, return beyond the gate of time! Yoriwara, vessel of Yamato. I'll be there at its peak. 108 tolls of the bell. Space will be torn, and time warped.
I got it.
Fucking chills. Before confronting Kato, there's one more thing I want to take care of. Getting the Seraphic Radiance fusion, called Dark Seraphim in this game. Similarly to Shadow Hearts, you need to have all other fusions, including the optional one for Kurando. To get Kurando's other fusion, you have to clear the optional Dog Shrine dungeon. It's pretty cool. It's kind of the only dungeon with a real puzzle. You have to place these hallway tiles on a grid to open paths to the other areas to get more tiles. At the end, you have to fight a spirit version of Guran, but it's pretty much the same as the last fight against him. You can solo fight Saki again with Kurando to get his other fusion. This fight took me a few tries and necessitated some 5th key usage. Similarly to Shadow Hearts, to get the Dark Seraphim, you have to head to the graveyard to fight it. Inside, Yuri can feel his memories being taken away by the mistletoe, before the spirit of his dad appears. They reminisce a bit. Yuri says he has no regrets. It's nice. Then the fight starts and I get absolutely atom bombed. Okay, time to get up to my old tricks again. Back in Petrograd, there's a merchant who sells 3rd keys. If you've seen my last Shadow Hearts video, you know we're in the money now. I buy 22 of them, absolutely wiping out my cash stack in the process. I also got a couple levels, and then tried again. She still hits like a truck, but Neo Amon is fast enough that I get more turns than her, so I can heal as much as I need. That, combined with the multiple 3rd keys, I win like a true hero, by cheating with a shitload of items. There's still a lot of side content that's been left undone, mostly because I'm guideless and didn't find it naturally. Honestly, even if I had done all the side quests, I probably wouldn't have put them in the video. Partly because the video is already way too long, but also because I strongly recommend you play this game. I want to leave some surprises for anyone who decides to play it after watching the video. Seriously, if you think you might be interested and don't mind emulating, you should at least try it out. The final dungeon is several floors of floating rings that need to be rotated to unlock higher levels. It looked more complicated than it was, so it didn't take very long. I think this is a slight downgrade from the final dungeon in Shadow Hearts. That one had the best background music in the whole game, and had different gimmicks on each floor. This one feels a little short and generic by comparison. That being said, fuck the teleporter maze from the last game. Right before the end, we meet Jean in the graveyard one last time, and she asks us a question. What brings Yuri happiness? There are 2 answers, and the ending is changed based on what we chose. The choices are, living life my own way, and living peacefully. The former gives you the good ending, while the latter gives the bad ending. I'll go over both after we defeat the final boss. Hien and Raiden are all that's standing between us and Kato, and after they're dealt with, it's time to deal with him. Kato summons the spirits of the 3 mutant apes, and transforms into Susanoo. Didn't he say he wasn't gonna borrow powers from the gods? Yeah, whatever. The game doesn't pull his punches with this fight. Honestly, if I didn't have Dark Seraphim and a bunch of 3rd keys, it probably would have given me some trouble. There are a total of 4 enemies in this fight, so you do have to pay attention and pick your targets. They have tricks up their sleeves too. They have group buffs, and Susanoo has an attack that removes all of your positive status effects. Unfortunately for them, Dark Seraphim is an absolute monster again in this game. I also switched Yuri and Joachim off of the technical ring for this fight. I don't really know why, but it feels like it was a respect thing. Like I'm taking off the weights and going all out for this fight. Anyway, with the power of friendship and a dozen 3rd keys, we defeat Kato. There's one small problem though. Coming into this area was kind of a one-way trip. We can't just leave without traveling through time somehow. Luckily, we can kind of just choose to travel back to the present, I guess. Everyone prays really hard to go back, and Karen and Yuri are the last at the platform. The mistletoe curse is finally catching up to Yuri, and this is where that choice from Jean earlier comes into play. In the last game, I pulled a little bit of a sneaky on you and hid the bad ending. But today we're going to front load it. If you said that living peacefully is what brought Yuri happiness, then he returns to the present and loses his memories as the Yuri in the graveyard tree fades away. There are a couple of important after credits scenes though. Turns out, instead of Karen going to the present, she went back to 1887. Yuri's father finds her, and we get a good look at that picture that Saki gave her. His mother, Anne, is a dead ringer for Karen. So this whole time, Karen was Yuri's mother, sent back to the past. What the fuck? They foreshadowed it a lot, too. Off the top of my head, there's the scene where Yuri gives her the pendant that belongs to his mother, and how apparently Yuri was named after his mom's former lover. This happens in both endings, by the way. I'm glad they didn't just have Karen come in and completely replace Alice as Yuri's love interest, but this is a little weird. This really recontextualizes that scene at the start of the game where Yuri and Geppetto are literally drooling over Karen after she changes into her new outfit. That's your mom you're drooling over. After that, there's another scene where Roger Bacon finds Yuri. He's lost all of his memories and doesn't even know his own name. Bacon tells Yuri that he's his father and brings him home. It's really sad, but something about Bacon adopting Yuri as his son is really heartwarming in a way.
Well, let's go home now. It's cold out.
Okay, if that's the bad ending, then what's the good one? Well, if you told John that living your own way brings you happiness, then on the platform, Yuri doesn't leave. He'd rather die while he's still Yuri than live on without his soul. As the platform breaks apart, he's impaled by a shard of rock and dies. This time, instead of Yuri's soul fading away in the graveyard, Alice's spirit joins him and pulls him from the tree. After the credits and the Karen cutscene, this happens.
Whoa, that's bad. I almost overslept. It'll be here soon.
It's the world you secretly prayed for. The place your heart returns to. The time when you were the happiest. You can start your life over again.
It's that train. I kind of feel like a kid again.
So, since he died before the mistletoe curse completely wiped out his soul, it was able to travel back to right before he met Alice. And hopefully he'll be able to save her this time. I like to think that in a roundabout way, this makes both endings of Shadow Hearts canon, as the bad ending results in him looping around at the end of this game to grab the good ending the second time. So that was Shadow Hearts Covenant. I sure had a great time. While it's an upgrade in so many ways from the first game, there are a couple things I liked better about 1. Firstly, the tone of Covenant is a lot lighter. It makes sense given how strongly it's themed around finding happiness, but I think I missed the horror aspect from the first one. I think the best way to put it is that the dungeons in 1 felt haunted, while the dungeons in this one felt infested. There was also a lot more comic relief this time around. The humor wasn't necessarily bad. It's not like I was rolling my eyes during every cutscene. The voice acting was a little off, but that's just a byproduct of being dubbed from Japanese. The voice actors honestly did an awesome job. It's just that they had to use a lot of filler words and weird pauses just to match the original lip movements. It's funny how the voice performance always improves the moment a character turns away from the camera or you otherwise can't see their mouth movements. I think the music this time around wasn't as good. A lot of the tracks felt a little generic, at least compared to Shadow Hearts. And it wasn't bad by any means, I just think the first game's soundtrack is a high hurdle to clear. Those complaints are all really minor too. I only bring them up for the sake of having something to talk about in the conclusion here. The things I enjoy far outnumber everything else. I think it's important to note that I'm not really a big JRPG guy either, but I still loved this game. That's not nostalgia talking either. I didn't have this game growing up, but I kinda wish I did. Kato is one of my favorite antagonists. He was kind of doing his own thing the whole game, and by the halfway point I could tell he was gonna be the final bad guy, but a big part of me was hoping that he would be an ally. The whole thing about him going back in time and that somehow counting as destroying the world feels a little weird in retrospect, especially considering Karen and Yuri both go back in time and everything seems fine. Maybe it's because his exact phrasing was that he was going to bring the whole world back in time? But I don't really see how that would be any different. And before anyone jumps in and says Kato did nothing wrong or whatever, by the end of the game, he was absolutely not a good dude. In fact, he was kind of a hypocrite. He wants to go back in time before the evil world leaders made things so bad, but he spent the whole game helping Ishimura for his own benefit. And he wasn't helping him for a particularly noble reason either. He was doing it all so he could try and bring Kawashima back to life. When he lost Kawashima, he didn't try to make the world a better place, he did the opposite. And then when he lost Oka, he tried to run away. Honestly, even if he did manage to go back in time, I don't think he would have been able to keep things from going downhill anyway, because at the end of the day, he gave up. A person who won't fight to make a bad situation better isn't the kind of person you want in charge. Yuri, on the other hand, is kind of an edgelord, but he recognized that the good in the world came from people looking past evil and still doing good. Overall, Shadow Hearts Covenant was an amazing game, and I'm sad to report that after the next entry, From the New World, the developer was shut down. If you stayed this long, seriously, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. This video is absolutely massive. Consider checking out some of my other stuff if you've got the time. I've covered 6 other games, not just JRPGs either. There's Rogue Trooper, the Cover Shooter, the Arcady Maximo games. I've got Disruptor, my favorite Doom clone, and of course Monster Seed, the little RPG that could. And if there's any PS1, PS2 era games that you want to see covered, don't hesitate to leave a comment. I look through them all. Parasite Eve and Disruptor were both games that I covered that I got from comments. So there's a good chance it'll happen. And I'm kind of running out of games that I played when I was a kid to make videos about. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
You got me. Hey, Bugby. You got me.